All right. Hello. So as it's been evident from the past, I guess, couple weeks, I've been on a Harry Potter um, sort of marathon, and I wanted to do a video again about the final. I want to say episode all the time because I'm thinking of Star Wars, but the final film of the Harry Potter movies. And I wanted to focus on like franchises in general or like series in general. And I want to talk about how, in my opinion, the eighth Harry Potter film is like a perfect franchise finale slash series finale. If you also look over here, I have a few things I'm working on. This is a Marvel video. It's only like 5 minutes, I think.
Weeks ago.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes. This is a pretty good video in my opinion. Then this is another short I'm posting. I didn't make it, but found it on Instagram. This is a house tour, which I like. And this is another one of those videos where I talk about like a cool transition in a movie, like sequence. And yeah, so you have those to look forward to. I also have another idea that I don't know what if I'm gonna do it or not, but I'd like to. But I don't know. It's just like an idea I thought of that there's a holy trinity of franchises, and it's Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. And I kind of wanted to make a video about that, but I suppose it would generally just focus on like why franchise films are so great, because obviously I'm not gonna like review each series in one video, like I've already done that. But yeah, so don't mind this. This is for a video game I'm playing. Anyway, so IMDb. I'm sorry. My brain's a little bit distracted right now, but it's also really dark in my room. It's only 2:49, but it's pretty dark because of the rain. It's my birthday in 4 days. Can you believe that? Okay, so yeah, we'll just look in here. Like I said before, like this movie makes my top 50. So I consider it like one of the best movies ever made. Certainly one of my favorites. And I watched it again last night. Believe it or not, I watched it like 3 times in the past month. So I've gone a little bit crazy. And I gotta stop because for me, like, my favorite films I do like to rewatch, but I definitely like to like give some time in between when I rewatch it. It's kind of like it's like savoring a good meal at a restaurant or something like that. Like you want to make it an experience, I guess. So I've definitely watched these movies a bit too much in the past month. And I guess that's just because it's my happy place and it's been like a nice therapy. It's one of my happy places, like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, along with some other films. But in terms of franchise films, oh, Marvel, of course. In terms of franchise films, there's certainly those are 3 of my happy places. And I think I'm gonna go into Star Wars next, because I haven't watched that in a few months. Maybe like 6 months or something or more. And with that, I'll have some videos about Star Wars, which will be fun. But let's get into it. I'm not gonna do like I will do an in-depth review, but I'm not gonna like read, I don't think, directly from this. But let's talk about the first thing that I think is remarkable about this movie. So if you don't know, there are 7 Harry Potter books, and they're fantastic books. And my 2 favorite when I read them in middle school were The Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows, the last 2 books. And obviously, for the films, the seventh book was split into two parts. And that's the first thing about this film that I think works so well. Like, the, I guess the foresight and the vision to split it in two really works because Deathly Hallows Part 1, which I do think is a very good film, but it's definitely a lot less good than Deathly Hallows Part 2, is basically all set up and it sort of gets rid of all the intro for the last book, The Deathly Hallows, the finale. And then in this film, you really have just a entire film that's like relentless and efficient of just pure payoffs, like character payoffs, action payoffs, sort of like a prophetic payoff, but also like very, very significant like thematic payoffs that we'll get into, like sort of the allegory between Harry Potter and the New Testament, or like Jesus, like when he sacrifices himself or lays down his life and survives. So like all that sort of stuff is in there. But let's talk about it. So the film is basically broken up into really two big parts. So here, well, like here is like the first part of this movie, which I would consider intro. So we can talk about like how much of this movie is just payoffs nonstop, both action, character, etc. So this part is like the beginning of the film. It's at Shell Cottage with the Goblin Griphook and Ollivander, where you learn about like the mechanics of the Elder Wand, etc., how wand lore works, and it's sort of the whole premise of the Deathly Hallows. And then they go to break into Bellatrix Lestrange's vault, because they believe a Horcrux might be there, because she sort of like freaks out when she learns that the sword was stolen from there. And this is an amazing action sequence. I know it's kind of like, I guess it's really a minor thing, but I thought the CG on the dragon in particular was amazing. Like, it looked like perfectly real. So that was really good. I do like the CG on the dragon, but the whole scene is amazing. Very tense, very cool. And then like flying out on the dragon back being like the sorry, I'm hiccuping. Being the means of escape was really, really cool. And while they're on the back of the dragon and they jump off into the lake, Harry has a vision where like Voldemort is going crazy. He's killing everybody, and he's having flashes of Ravenclaw at Hogwarts. So basically, Voldemort knows that they're hunting Horcruxes, and that one of the last Horcruxes, the last two, is at Hogwarts, and it's related to Rowena Ravenclaw. So this is another fantastic scene where they apparate into Hogsmeade, and all the all these alarms go off and people are looking for him, but this man lets him in, and it turns out to be Aberforth Dumbledore. And there's this great scene where there's sort of some tension where Aberforth seems to be given up, and he's like very bitter about how things have gone, and he's bitter about his brother. And in the book you get way more understanding of like what happened between Dumbledore and his brother and Dumbledore and his sister. I guess I'll tell you because why not? So basically, Dumbledore, Grindelwald, and Aberforth were in a three-way duel, and basically none of the three of them ever knew who cast the curse that killed his sister. But basically, Albus Dumbledore always blamed himself, and it was one of the events in his life that like pulled him away from Grindelwald, who was a dark wizard of his time, and eventually led to Dumbledore defeating Grindelwald in like the duel of the century and winning the Elder Wand from him. So that's how Dumbledore did get the Elder Wand, and this is all very well explained in the book. But in the movie, it's very implicit, but it still works very well. And then there's this magnificent scene where like Neville comes in through this like tunnel to the Hogshead pub and takes Harry back, and like there's a great scene where Harry like makes his triumphant entrance and everybody is clapping, and there's a great soundtrack from like the original movies. And yeah, he reunites with Ginny and all that. But Snape knows that Harry was sighted in Hogsmeade, so he calls everybody to the Great Hall, and he's like, should anyone, be it student or staff, attempt to hide Mr. Potter, they will be punished in a manner consistent with the severity of their transgression. Something like that. It's an amazing scene, very tense, and Harry steps out and he confronts Snape and says, like, how dare you stand where Dumbledore stood? And Snape pulls out his wand, fights with McGonagall, but you'll notice, like, he's only using defensive spells, and he actually, like, deflects two of the spells. Oh, sorry. 1 second. Okay. That was just a timer on my phone. He deflects two of the spells behind him on the Death Eaters, and he flies away. There's also a... Okay, no, so at this point, Voldemort, like, uses, like, a possession spell where, like, he can talk and in everyone's head, and he says, like, give up Harry Potter and no one will be harmed, and, like, the Slytherins say, like, go grab Harry Potter, but then, like, everybody stands with Harry, and McGonagall tells them to go to the dungeons. So this is also, like, a minor arc or character moment / payoff. Maybe, like, the first payoff rather than just setup. So basically, one of the main, like, character flaws / hangups / arcs of Harry Potter is, like, he's consistently, like, misunderstood and, like, harshly judged, and he sort of has a difficult time fitting in and also just, like, being himself. Like, he kind of feels uncomfortable in his own skin, and often everybody's against him, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. But in this scene, like, everybody stands with him, as a comparison to, like, you know, in the 5th movie where everyone thinks he's lying about Voldemort, or in the 4th movie where they think he is cheating in the competition, etc. But in this moment, it's like a payoff for his character where everybody stands with him, and finally he has, like, the support he needs. So at this point, the movie, it really, like, perfectly sets up the whole climax of the film. Like, you know, the protective spell goes around Hogwarts. It's really well made scene, and at the same time this is going on while they're preparing their defenses, like, Ron and Hermione go into the Chamber of Secrets to get a basilisk fang to destroy Helga Hufflepuff's cup, which is a Horcrux they got from Bellatrix's vault. And sorry, just give me a second. And anyway, Harry is with Luna, and they go to talk to Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter, known as the Grey Lady, who's a ghost, because she's like the only one that might know where the diadem is. Harry like figures it out. It's a really good scene. He realizes it's in the room of requirement. They go in the room of requirement. He finds it, but then like Draco and Goyle and this guy named Blaze, who, fun fact, the only reason Blaze Zabini was cast in this role other than Crabbe. Remember, this guy who was Draco's friend is like, the reason was this guy wasn't in the movie was because I believe he was actually in jail or he had some legal troubles, but certainly I believe he did end up going to jail. Wait, is that him? No way. He really lost all that weight, huh? Well, good for him. Anyway, yeah, but he wasn't in the movie, and they like cast him with this other guy who's like a black guy named Blaze. This fella. Oh no, see, that's him. Yeah, and then he dies. So this is another payoff. So basically, Draco confronts Harry and says, like, give my wand back. And Harry's like, why didn't you tell Bellatrix that you knew it was me in Malfoy Manor from the last film? And basically, at this point, Harry and Ron come in and they start fighting, but they run away, and then Goyle conjures a huge, like, it's called the Fiend Fire Curse, and it's like a huge fire dragon and a fire snake, and it's burning down the whole room, and they find some brooms and go off, but Goyle dies. I believe it's Crabbe in the book, but Goyle dies in the movie, so Draco loses his friend, and Harry sees they're trapped, and he goes back, and this ends their whole arc, where not only Draco has a small redemption, where you notice like he's not really pure evil, but also like Harry is very heroic, and he saves Draco's life and puts aside their hatred, I guess. And yeah, another great payoff scene. Now, to like my favorite and probably many people's favorite part, or at least one of my favorite parts of this really incredible movie, like maybe one of the greatest payoffs / greatest redemption arcs in cinema / literature history, which would be the what's known as the Prince's Tale in the book, because, you know, Half-Blood Prince being Snape, the Prince's Tale, where Harry goes into Voldemort's mind and sees he's at the docks of Hogwarts, so he goes and spies on him, and he realizes Nagini is the final Horcrux. Yes. But this scene in the movie does a lot of like heavy lifting to like finally kind of, without outright telling you about what Snape was doing with Voldemort, because in this scene it's clear that Snape he's lying to him. He's giving him bad advice. Voldemort is like, the wand resists me, blah blah blah, but like Snape is like, no, it's your wand, it will never resist you. When you face Harry Potter, you will kill him. But it's clear he's giving fake advice. So at this point, Voldemort reveals, like, you are the one who's the true owner of the Elder Wand. As long as you live, the wand will never be mine. So he kills Snape, and as far as you know, like, Voldemort now has the upper hand, because the wand should be his, and Harry's not going to be able to beat him. More on that later. So, yeah, in a really tragic and genuinely sad scene that always gets me. Like, it's sort of like, you're my brother, Anakin. I loved you. Like, it always gets me. The death of Snape and the prince's tale and the Pensieve, his memories. Like that, this whole scene is amazing. So Snape is attacked by the snake. Voldemort disapparates, but Harry, Ron, and Hermione walk in, and like Harry puts his hand on the blood and on his neck, and Snape is crying, and his tears are kind of glowing, and he's like, take them, please. So they take his tears, and maybe one of the finest lines in cinema, especially when you consider it's not directly from the book. Snape says, look at me. You have your mother's eyes. And then dies. In the book, it doesn't say you have your mother's eyes. It says like he locked eyes with Harry and like he saw Lily's eyes in his eyes. But obviously you can't really express that as much on screen. But I really like the you have your mother's eyes, which is, again, a massive payoff. Like, let me make sure I'm recording. See, I'm always paranoid that I'm not recording. Again, a massive payoff over multiple movies. Like, the thing about it, this is an 8-movie series. We'll get into, like, how hard it is to make 8 movies consistently great and not screw up massively. But throughout the series, like, Harry's living in many ways, his parents' shadow. He's always feeling like something's missing, and people like tell him like, you look just like your father, but you had your mother's eyes. And it's always people that loved Harry, like Sirius, who was his godfather, or Lupin, who was one of his dad's best friends. So it always comes from like someone that loves Harry. But in this moment where Snape tells him, you have your mother's eyes, it's sort of like how beautiful and circular is that sort of changes your whole perception of Snape. Sorry. Even before you see his memories in the Pensieve. And it's really just beautiful storytelling and a beautiful arc. So Harry goes into the Pensieve, and one of my favorite sequences in all of cinema, the Prince's Tale in the Pensieve, where you learn about how Snape was a Death Eater, but he always loved Harry's mother, and their relationship broke down in school, and he was sort of devastated by it, and he sort of turned on Voldemort when he realized that Voldemort was going to kill Lily, and he like devoted his life to Dumbledore to destroy Voldemort, because like he realized like it's gone too far and he's going to kill Lily, and it sort of like proves that he always had good in him, that he, had this great love for this friend, this woman. Even more significant that she was Muggle-born. She was not, obviously, Death Eaters hate Muggles, Muggle-born, witches or wizards, so it's like this thing that he's always kind of hiding about himself, that he loved this woman that he shouldn't love, and he turns on Voldemort, but then she still dies, and then he also devotes his life to eventually defeating Voldemort when he comes back and protecting her son. And in this moment, you learn that Snape has been helping Harry by giving him the sword, and that he must deliver the news to Harry that he must face Voldemort, sort of like the New Testament, like bearing the cross, I guess, and facing death, come what may. So at this point, he says goodbye to his friends, go to the Forbidden Forest, and this is like the famous meme where Voldemort's like, Avada Kedavra! And it's a really cool scene. I like the flash of green light before he dies. And then he goes into like beyond, and he sees that Voldemort killed the Horcrux inside of Harry, and Harry's been given like another chance. But before this scene, Dumbledore gives him the Resurrection Stone, which allows Harry to see his loved ones again before he goes to his death, but he chooses not to hold the Resurrection Stone when he's attacked. But one of the things that the movie doesn't directly say is when Dumbledore gave him the Resurrection Stone, he becomes the Master of Death, because he's the rightful owner of the stone, the Elder Wand. And yes, the invisibility cloak is the same invisibility cloak from the Deathly Hallows. The book makes it clear that Harry's cloak, unlike others, never degrades. Like all invisibility cloaks like lose their powers. His is, it never gets old. It never gets old, like beats. Anyway, so Dumbledore makes him the Master of Death before his death. So that is like one of the reasons why he survives. There are other reasons, like Harry's blood is in Voldemort's blood. Another reason is like Voldemort is using the Elder Wand against its true master. So there's a lot of reasons, but also like the reason in the movie, the most clear reason is like he just killed himself in Harry. Like he killed himself, Voldemort. So Harry's like given another chance. And in this scene, sorry, I want to get something on my phone for a second. In this scene, he talks to Dumbledore, and there's a really good quote that I like, that I want to talk about, and I have it on my Twitter account here. I don't know. I've mentioned that on my Twitter. I post movie quotes I like. So I posted this one. I think it's my most recent one. So like when he's with Dumbledore like has like one last moment with Harry where he's like, "You brave man." He explains what happened in terms of the magic, and he says this, which I really like. He says, "Help will always be given at Hogwarts, Harry, to those who ask for it." This is referencing what he says in Chamber of Secrets. I've always prized myself on my ability to turn a phrase. Words are, in my not so humble opinion, our most exhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it. But I would, in this case, amend my original statement to this. Help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who deserve it. This is in response to Harry saying, like, how are we going to kill the snake? We have nothing to kill it with. So I just thought that was beautifully written. And it's kind of meta because it's like words are our most inexhaustible source of magic. Kind of like how Harry Potter's a book. Then there's the other famous quote, like Harry asks, "Is this real or is it happening inside my head?" And he says, "Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. But why should that mean it's not real?" Then there's also the other famous line where Harry asks, "Snape's Patronus was a doe, the same as my mother's." And he says, "That's curious." And then Dumbledore says, "Actually, when I think about it, it's not curious at all," sort of confirming that, yes, Snape always loved your mother, and by extension, he always had like this attachment to you and an obligation to protect you, despite the hatred he had towards your father for bullying him as a child. And yeah, Harry comes back, and this is another favorite scene, which is also kind of like another payoff. Like, just payoff, 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 payoff. Back in the present, Narcissa Malfoy goes to check if Harry's dead or alive. And this is an epic scene where, like, she realizes he's alive, but she says, "Draco, is he alive?" And Harry shakes his head, yes. And she says dead, which is a little redemption arc for her, betraying Voldemort in that last moment. And then they take Harry's body back. Hagrid carries him like he did in the first film when he was a baby, and he says Harry Potter was dead. Neville gives a great speech, which is another payoff for his character, going from this like wimpy kid to this brave warrior. Pulls out the sword of Gryffindor from the sorting hat, proving he is a worthy Gryffindor, a brave person. And then Harry Potter reveals himself, jumps out of Hagrid's arms. And yeah, they fight. Harry wins. The snake is killed by Neville. And Harry explains to Ron and Hermione that Draco was the master of the Elder Wand when he disarmed Dumbledore and the Half-Blood Prince. And then when Harry disarmed Malfoy at Malfoy Manor, he became the master of the Elder Wand. So Voldemort was using the Elder Wand against its true master. And in a moment of humility, he destroys the Elder Wand. One thing I wish they added from the book is he repairs his own wand before he does this. You know, because his wand was broken in the first Deathly Hallows film. And then you get a epilogue 19 years later when he's talking to his son, Albus Severus Potter, who's worried about being sorted into Slytherin, and he says, Albus Severus Potter, you were named after 2 headmasters of Hogwarts, and one of them was a Slytherin, and the bravest man I ever knew, or I ever met. So it's sort of a perfect end, and sort of a thank you to both Dumbledore and Snape, 2 men that protected Harry, and sort of like a last honor for Snape, who sort of was a tortured soul who never really got the love and appreciation he deserved. But Harry, by naming his son after Snape, is sort of acknowledging that and rectifying the pain that Severus dealt with in his life. And yeah, like I said, Deathly Hallows Part 2 is a extremely unique film. A very highly rated film too. It's like 96 and 89, I believe, on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, 96 and 89. A film that is really quite unique for the reasons I talked about with its structure, where it's a 2-part film and all the setup is in the first film, while the second film just deals with all the payoffs of character, of themes, of action, everything like that. Also, we got to talk about like other things. Like, it is a very well-made film, and I would say some of the shots are genuinely great. The music is fantastic. I think it's by a guy named like Alexander Desplat or something like that. But he did an amazing job. I don't know if I can find him here. Yeah, okay. Alexander Desplat. Furthermore, there are loads of like iconic moments that sort of are etched into your mind forever, like the Avada Kedavra scene where Harry goes to die, or Draco, is he alive? Or like that last scene with Dumbledore in the Beyond, or the Prince's Tale, or Snape's death, or you have your mother's eyes, or Snape saying always about Lily, like when Dumbledore says, "Don't tell me now you've grown to care for the boy," and then he does his Patronus, which is a doe, and Dumbledore says Lily, and then Snape says always. That's like a picture is worth 1,000 words. The Patronus being a doe, it's so powerful, and you make the connection immediately in your mind, even though it's not directly spelled out that it was her Patronus at this point in the movie, but you understand like how much he loved her and how he protected her son, despite, the bitterness he felt about the father. Yeah. What else can I say about it? I mean, I guess I'll talk about like my memories of this film. I remember in 2011, I don't believe I ever watched Harry Potter. No, yeah, God, I never watched it then. I watched it in like 6th grade, I believe. So that was like a few years later. But I remember like it was a really huge event when it came out. And I remember seeing ads for it. I remember my cousin Zach, he went to go see it. Of course, many years later, I did watch it. Not many years, but a few years in middle school. Then, of course, I actually want to show you something. I'm going to pause it so you don't have to wait, but I'll go get something. So I just wanted to read you a few things. It's a letter, and I'm talking about memories of this film, or Harry Potter in general, so I'll read you the last 3 lines of this letter. P.S. Thanks for letting me use the pen. P.S. Harry Potter is awesome. Hashtag Rambo Lives Matter. So I'll let you think about what that is. But of course, it's obvious. And yeah, so I guess one of my best Harry Potter memories, and the reason I didn't rewatch this film for like 4 years, was I always like showing people stuff they like. I always like taking people to new restaurants or showing people a new movie. And yes, I did get to show my best friend Harry Potter, even though he was very against it, because he's a very stubborn person. And it's a very positive memory for me. And it was a very, I appreciated it a lot. More recently, another memory, I also showed this series to my dad, and he had spent years refusing to watch this series and saying how bad it was, despite never seeing it, and even he liked it, and he's a very negative person, so that's positive. And yeah, I would say that that's a strong testament to this series if my dad can like it. I always knew Ethan would like it. There was no doubt in my mind he would. And I even predicted exactly how it would go. I told him like the first 2, like especially the first one, like you're gonna go in and you're gonna be like, it's like, yeah, it's got something, but it's kind of like really lightweight and not worth finishing or whatever. But then watch the second one, and when you get to the third one, you'll notice, like, okay, I like it. And that's exactly what happened. And it was very, very fun to do this with him and show him these movies was really, really cool. And he did agree with me that the last one is the best. I don't really understand how people don't think that. I mean, many people do, but I'm just saying, like, as good as the third one is, and I do appreciate it from a directorial standpoint, people saying, like, the third one is better is like, I don't know about that. I mean, it's hard to beat this film. It really is, in my opinion, as a film itself, let alone, like, in this series. And then, I've seen, like, people even say, like, the first one is their favorite. And, like, while I understand for, like, as an intro film, it is good. And I think that it really, like, in terms of visually, it nailed it. Like, creating, like, a real atmosphere of magic is hard to do. I agree with that. But then I like heard this guy, like this YouTuber, say this was his favorite film, and I just like I can't even understand that. Or I've seen people say Order of the Phoenix is like, yes, I like it a lot, but nothing compares to this film as a Harry Potter film, or indeed it's up there with the like Premier Leagues of franchise films, which why I'm saying it's like the finest finale for a franchise you could ever hope for. And yeah, I guess that's me for this. Appreciate you watching. But yeah, Deathly Hallows Part 2. A very, very amazing franchise film finale. Sussy Boy, out.